Top 40 PPR running back rankings. I'm going to be breaking these running backs down into tiers, talking about where I like to pick them and whether some of them are worth a pick. So let's get it started. Jeffrey, I'm going to have you read off the tiers today.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Let's get over to the tier guide. Tier 1.
Christian McCaffrey.
Christian McCaffrey sits all alone in tier 1. Last year, he scored over 100 more points than every other running back. This was pretty clear cut. He's the number 1 pick in every fantasy football draft, if you ask me. Let's move on to the next tier. Tier 2.
Bijan Robinson and Breece Hall.
These are the only 2 running backs that have a shot of getting close to overtaking Christian McCaffrey. For Bijan Robinson, he has a new coach. Thank God, because the last one was trash. And a new quarterback. Last one was also trash. We can trust Kirk Cousins to get down the field, assuming he is healthy from his injury. And I think this offense is going to get into more scoring positions, which definitely helps Bijan Robinson. And for Breece Hall, also has a new quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. Please stay healthy, Aaron Rodgers. This offense desperately needs you. All 3 of these running backs are going in the first round. Christian McCaffrey, number 1 overall, and the other 2 are hovering around 5 to 7. I think they're all worth their draft value. Tier 3.
Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, Kyron Williams, and Jahmyr Gibbs.
All 4 of these running backs are either going in the back of the first round or the top of the second round. I think all 4 are worth a draft pick in that range. That being said, all 4 of these running backs have a question mark, which keeps them at a tier 2.
Jonathan Taylor and Saquon Barkley.
Both have quarterbacks that are going to take touchdowns away from them because they're run-first quarterbacks.
Kyron Williams and Jahmyr Gibbs.
Both have a running back, too, that we have question marks about. For Jahmyr Gibbs, he has David Montgomery behind him, who is a bona fide touchdown scorer. He doesn't catch the ball as much, but there is a good starter that they can go to that will be taking carries away. And for Kyron Williams, they just drafted Blake Corum. And though I still really like Kyron Williams, how they're going to use Blake Corum is still a little up in the air. I wouldn't be drafting him this high if I wasn't confident that Kyron will get the job done, but Blake Corum will spell him more than the backup running backs last year did. These are the last of the bona fide elite running backs. You have a clear-cut running back 1 on your squad if you get one of these guys, and a very solid start to a hero RB draft. Moving on to the next tier. Tier 4.
Travis Etienne Jr., James Cook, Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry, Isaiah Pacheco, and Rashad White.
The average draft position for all 6 of these running backs are pretty spread out, anywhere from the 2nd round to the 4th round. For the running backs in the 4th round, I would not reach for them because you're really just giving up value. I would just wait for them to drop to me and grab them there. I really like this tier. I'm comfortable with all 6 of these running backs being my running back 1 on my squad. The only one that makes me slightly nervous is Rashad White. He's not the most efficient running back, and he gets a lot of his fantasy points from catching the ball. The team just drafted a backup running back in Bucky Irving who specializes in catching the ball. I do think that Rashad White should hold his value, which is why he's so high, but that is a little unknown that the other running backs don't have. Travis Etienne was the running back 3 last year. He's great at missed forced tackles, and he has an A+ in elusive rating. Very solid pick. James Cook was a lot better once they switched the offensive coordinators, and I think those touchdowns go up too. Abnormally low last year. And with Stephon Diggs gone, targets will funnel more to the running back position as well. Alvin Kamara is just a PPR beast. He had 75 receptions last year, which is wild. I think he's lost a step, but the fact that he's catching so many balls, he's got to be up high. Derrick Henry is the king, and he's going to be scoring a lot of touchdowns. I'll be surprised if he gets anything less than 10. I'm looking for 12 to 15, honestly. Isaiah Pacheco's on one of the best offenses in the league, and he has nobody behind him that worries you. I love that. Moving on to the next tier. Tier 5.
Joe Mixon, Devon Achane, Raheem Mostert, Josh Jacobs, Kenneth Walker III, and James Conner.
This tier has one of the biggest ranges. From the 2nd round with Devon Achane down to the 7th round with Raheem Mostert. All of these guys are solid RB2s. Devon Achane is being drafted much higher than the rest of these guys, just like Raheem Mostert is being drafted much lower than the rest of these guys. I think Raheem Mostert's a value, and Achane's a bit overdrafted. Joe Mixon was running back 5 last year, and he moves from a great offense to another great offense, from the Cincinnati Bengals over to the Texans. I do think his workload is diminished a little bit, but he still has a great offense, and that's going to lead to heavy points for him. Achane is going to be boom bust, but his booms will win you your week. But I think some games he's going to be in the shadow. Raheem Mostert's the lead running back on this squad, and I think that he's going to lead the team in touchdowns by a decent margin. Josh Jacobs moves over to the Green Bay Packers. Which Josh Jacobs are we getting? The one from 2 years ago or the one from last year? If it's 2 years ago, Packers got to steal because this man is a great running back when he's in shape and he's running downhill. If it's from last year, there's a reason they structured his contract to where they can get out of it after this year. Let's just say that. So we got some question marks there. Which one are you going to get? Kenneth Walker III. The Seattle Seahawks offense, I think, gets better with their new offensive coordinator. And Kenneth Walker gets an A+ in missed tackles forced and elusive rating. The kid can move, and he's hard to catch. And for James Conner, I think that the Arizona Cardinals offense is going to be much better this year. A healthy Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison Jr. coming through, being the new number 1. Trey McBride opening it up in the middle of the field for the tight end. They're not going to be able to stack the boxes much anymore, and I think that's going to help James Conner. Now, the team did draft Trey Benson pretty high in this draft, but I think that Trey Benson's going to take a back seat except for the 3 games that James Conner will most likely miss because James Conner never plays all 17 games. But while he's on the field, I think he's really good. He's going to have a lot of opportunities. He's going to catch the ball, and he's going to score touchdowns. Moving on to the next tier. Tier 6.
Aaron Jones, Najee Harris, Ramondre Stevenson, and David Montgomery.
This is the last tier where I'm really sure what the role for each one of these players is going to be. I think that Aaron Jones is still a very good running back, but he moves to a worse offense going to the Minnesota Vikings, led by Sam Darnold. But he's a good pass-catching back that I think is going to also get the goal line work. He did go to the rival of his last team. From the Packers to the Vikings is wild. Same division? He's going to be angry, running hard. And Najee Harris is in a contract year because the Steelers did not pick up his 5th-year option. He playing for a contract. That boy is going to come to play. He does have a good backup running back in Jaylen Warren, but I think this will still be Najee Harris's backfield. Also, Warren is dealing with a hamstring injury. They say he should be ready for week 1, but that's like 2 weeks away at this point. So time's a ticking. Najee Harris is going to be solid. He was running back 8 in the back half of the year. I think it's hard to tackle that boy as the season goes on. Ramondre Stevenson got paid. 4 years, $36 million. Congratulations, bro. You getting your money up. I like that. But they needed to pay him. This is going to be a bad team. They at least need to have a good running back. Whether it's Jacoby Brissett or Drake May, I don't want to say I don't care, but the offense is going to be bad regardless. They're going to have a good defense, a solid running game, but a bad team overall. They're not going to score a lot of points, which is going to hamper Ramondre Stevenson's upside. And on top of that, they brought in Antonio Gibson. I'm not concerned with Antonio Gibson affecting the carries that Stevenson gets, but the receptions is a whole nother story. Ramondre Stevenson was on pace for over 50 receptions last year. And the year before that, he had 69 receptions. Well, if Antonio Gibson comes in here and starts taking those receptions, that could hurt his value. That being said, I am still confident that he's the main guy, and we're running out of definite starters. These running backs are going between rounds 5 and 6. That's typically the dead zone. The dead zone is an area where running backs don't really give back a lot of value. Next up, we have David Montgomery, who has an upside that these other running backs don't have. So right now, he's the running back 2 on the Detroit Lions. I still think it's closer to 50-50, 45-55 between the two. I think that David Montgomery is going to probably lead the team in carries, but Jahmyr Gibbs is going to get a vast majority of the receptions going to the running back position. But I think David Montgomery is still going to get a decent amount of touchdowns because they have a great offensive line and a great offense. And they're not going to take him off the field if they get down into the red zone. Plus, David Montgomery is a big boy. You want him getting carries inside the 5. Jahmyr Gibbs can and will get rushing touchdowns. I'm not saying he won't, but David Montgomery will too. I won't be surprised if he gets 10. I'm not calling it. I got him at 9. And Jahmyr Gibbs is dealing with a hamstring injury. That's not the injury you want to be dealing with heading into the season. Those crop back up. And if he goes down, David Montgomery's value skyrockets. He's basically going to be a top 10, top 15 running back easy if Gibbs goes down. So David Montgomery has an upside with injury that these other running backs don't have. Moving on to the next tier. Tier 7.
Zamir White, Tony Pollard, Ezekiel Elliott, Gus Edwards, DeAndre Swift, Brian Robinson, Devin Singletary, Javonte Williams, Austin Eckler, Zach Moss, Jalen Warren.
This tier has a lot of question marks. The running backs range from round 7 to round 10. So these are your later guys, which makes sense because they all have question marks. Starting at the top with Zamir White. He should be the main dude on the Las Vegas Raiders. But one, how valuable is that? It won't be a good offense. I'm happy that Gardner Minshew's the quarterback because I have more confidence in him than AOC, but a starter nonetheless. Alexander Madison is there. I'm not confident that he's going to take a lot of work, but you are banking on Zamir White being the dude where you're drafting him in the 7th. That one's a little up in the air for me. Tony Pollard just got paid to go to the Tennessee Titans. He's got to be the clear-cut number 1, right? Maybe not. I think he's going to be splitting a lot of work with Tajay Spears. They did pay him 3 years, $21 million, but I don't think that he's going to be the clear-cut number 1 guy. I think they're going to use both of them a lot. And how good's that offense going to be? It should be better than it was last year, but they're definitely not top tier. They're bottom half for sure. Ezekiel Elliott has a homecoming to the Dallas Cowboys. But what Zeke are we getting? Last year Zeke, who wasn't great to be kind? Or 2 years ago Zeke back on this Dallas Cowboys team where he dominated goal line work? I'm leaning towards him being solid and getting the goal line. I do think that him and Rico Dowdle are going to fight it out. And I also think that Ezekiel Elliott will probably be better at the beginning of the year than the end of the year because he's getting older. That's something you got to think about with older running backs. They don't really got the juice at the end of the year as much as they do at the beginning. Nonetheless, he's one of my favorite late round running backs because you're getting him in the 10th. And he may be the lead running back on the Dallas Cowboys. And no matter how annoying I think their fans are, they have a great offense. Next, Gus Edwards, moving over to the Baltimore Ravens, should be the number 1 dude on a team that wants to run the ball. They traded away all their wide receivers. Keenan Allen, gone. Mike Williams, gone. Gus Edwards should have this main role. J.K. Dobbins is back on this team. Coincidentally, they used to play together for the Ravens. He's coming off of an Achilles tear, but I also think he's coming off of an ACL from years ago. Will he be able to bounce back to how he used to be? That's a gamble. With the information we have now, Gus Edwards is the lead dog on a team that wants to run the ball, that has a good quarterback. Not a bad value in the 10th. Unlike these previous guys, DeAndre Swift is not a value. You're getting him in the dead zone in the 6th round, top of the 6th round at that. There's a lot of question marks that I have for DeAndre Swift. I've actually been going back and forth with this guy on TikTok about DeAndre Swift. And I'll tell you the same thing I told him. DeAndre Swift is a question mark for me. I like Caleb Williams, but he is a rookie. Yes, he had a really nice drive, but he also had a few bad ones too. Not holding it too far against him, just saying this isn't the Kansas City Chiefs here. So I think the offense will have its ebbs and flows. They have 3 wide receivers who are all going to be fighting for the ball. Jeffrey, who are those wide receivers again?
DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Rome Odunze.
Trust me, he's going to be trying to keep those boys happy, and they're all going to expect the ball. And I don't think that DeAndre Swift is the only running back that's going to get work. Khalil Herbert will get work. Roshan Johnson will get work. I'm not saying that he won't be the lead back, because he will be. What I'm saying is there's a lot of mouths to feed for me to draft DeAndre Swift in the 6th round.
Brian Robinson.
I've been going back and forth with this Brian Robinson versus Austin Eckler thing, and I'll actually combine both of these because they're in the same tier, and I got some questions. I think that Brian Robinson will be the lead ball carrier, but I think Austin Eckler is going to get the most targets. Now, they got a rookie quarterback, and that's not great. The rookie quarterback likes to run, also not great for running backs. You don't get those dump-off passes as often with running quarterbacks. Brian Robinson is good. I actually really like him. I think he's a talented running back. And where you're drafting him is a value because you're getting him in the back of the 9th. So I think he's a solid pick. If you end up going 0 RB, I think that he is going to be a solid guy to add to your roster. Even if you're not, I think he's going to be pretty good. Moving down, Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary is going to be on a most likely bad offense with a bad quarterback, but he's going to be the lead guy. That's about all I got for you. I think he'll be serviceable. Not a lot of upside, but he's a starting running back. At this point in the draft, sometimes just having a starter is good enough. Javonte Williams going in the 8th. I'm torn on this one because Sean Payton normally has a running back that's valuable for fantasy football, and if there was one, it's probably going to be him, but they did draft Andre Estime, who I actually think is going to be pretty solid. He's a big boy. So will he lose some goal line touches? Will Jaleel McLaughlin take some of the receiving work? Probably. So he's a starter. I'm just not super confident in him. And I also don't think the Broncos are going to be a good offense either. Austin Eckler is going to live on the targets he gets. I do think that he's going to be involved in the run game, but I think Bryant's going to lead them in carries. I'm not of the opinion that Austin Eckler has lost it. I think that he was great week 1, got injured, and never really fully recovered throughout the year. I'm really rooting for Austin Eckler. Just know I'm an Austin Eckler guy. He went from being the 2nd overall pick to, where's Austin Eckler going?
In round 9.
Oh my gosh. Round 9? Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Next up,
Zach Moss.
he has really dropped down my rankings. I'm no longer confident that he's going to be the lead guy. It's going to be between him and Chase Brown. I lean Zach Moss is going to be more of the lead guy, but I'm not closing the door on Brown. That's why he's dropped. I love the offense he went to. I do think that he'll be productive regardless, but that's a battle that hasn't been decided yet. And Jaylen Warren, I think he is explosive in his running back 2 role. He won't be overtaking Najee Harris, but I do think that as a running back 2, he's one of the better running back 2s in the league. Now, he is dealing with a hamstring injury right now, and hamstring injuries make me a little nervous because they tend to crop back up. In the 8th round might be a little rich for my blood, but if he starts to drop, I think he could be a solid grab. Moving on to the next tier. Tier 8.
Jonathan Brooks, Jerome Ford, Rico Dowdle, Chuba Hubbard, and Chase Brown.
If I had questions about the running backs before, I definitely got questions about these. Tajay Spears flashed last year. I think he's a good running back. I don't think he's going to get a majority of the role, but I think it's going to be closer to 50-50 than people are giving him credit for. Jonathan Brooks, I don't think he starts the year healthy. 2 weeks ago, I heard that he may go on the PUP. That's still up in the air. And guys coming off of ACL injuries tend to make me nervous. But I think once he comes back, they're going to try to get him that role. Jerome Ford, also an injury situation. We don't know whether or not Nick Chubb is going to be ready to go. If he is, what's the workload going to be like? I think Jerome Ford is going to be a late round value. Rico Dowdle is going to be fighting for that number 1 spot with Ezekiel Elliott. I don't think he wins it, but I definitely think he stays involved. And when you have a chance to get the starting running back for the Dallas Cowboys this late, he's worth a grab. Chuba Hubbard is the benefactor of Jonathan Brooks starting slow or starting on the PUP. For those first 4 or 5 weeks, if Brooks is on the PUP, Chuba Hubbard will be that dude. And he'll be a huge value, at least until Jonathan Brooks comes back. And then Chase Brown. Chase Brown is fighting for the starting job of the Cincinnati Bengals. He was there last year, so the coach is familiar with him and his game. But they brought in Zach Moss for a reason. So I think they fight it out regardless. I think they're both involved. And Chase Brown also worth a grab. It's time for a summary. Jeffrey, bring me my tiers.
Yes, sir.
Top 40 PPR running backs by tiers. Tier 1.
Christian McCaffrey,
Tier 2.
Bijan Robinson, and Breece Hall.
Tier 3.
Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, Kyron Williams, and Jahmyr Gibbs.
Tier 4.
Travis Etienne Jr., James Cook, Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry, Isaiah Pacheco, and Rashad White.
Tier 5.
Joe Mixon, Devon Achane, Raheem Mostert, Josh Jacobs, Kenneth Walker III, and James Conner.
Tier 6.
Aaron Jones, Najee Harris, Ramondre Stevenson, and David Montgomery.
Tier 7.
Zamir White, Tony Pollard, Ezekiel Elliott, Gus Edwards, DeAndre Swift, Brian Robinson, Devin Singletary, Javonte Williams, Austin Ekeler, Zach Moss, and Jaylen Warren.
Tier 8.
Tajay Spears, Jerome Ford, Rico Dowdle, Chuba Hubbard, and Chase Brown.
And that's my top 40 PPR running backs. Who did I get right? Who did I get wrong? Who's too high and who's way too low? Let me know down in the comments. Draft season's coming. It's right. It's here. People are drafting left and right. Let me know if you have any questions. If you need any help drafting and you just don't know really what you're doing and you're new to fantasy football, click here. You got my fantasy football training course. It'll teach you what fantasy football is, tips and tricks on how to draft, as well as some other fun nuggets. Click here for the mock drafts so you can see how I do it. Good luck in your drafts, and I'll see you soon. Peace.